Shalom, everybody, to our Acts chapter study. We're on Acts chapter 28. We're going to look at groups of 10. And I'm going to take the first 10 verses. And we're going to see what we can pull out from these verses. All right. So Acts chapter 28, last chapter in the book of Acts.
Wait, that's your last chapter?
Yeah, it's the last chapter.
I got a 29.
Yeah, wait, 29, that's 28.
No, I got a 29 in the session.
Got 29.
Because there is the lot. It's called the last chapter of Acts. It's Acts chapter 29, and there is one out there like that. And because I got the little book, I got the little book, so just to throw it out there.
Which book you got, Ameka?
The Sefer.
The Sefer has a 29 chapters. How much verses is in the 28th chapter?
There's 31 verses in the 28th.
After we finish, I want to hear that one.
All right.
It's interesting. Interesting.
That one, yeah, definitely want to hear that one. I've never even heard of that before.
I also have Stephen, and 28 goes to 31, and then 29 goes to 26, verse 26.
Okay. All right. So let's look at chapter 28. After that, let's look at chapter 28 for the recording. All right. So I'm going to look at the first 10 verses. It says, now from the last time we just left, we had Paul. They were on the boat. They got into the fasting. They got into the calling on Yah. Yah put Paul in responsibility of all of their faith, because now they were looking at Paul for the answers. And now Paul was able to communicate what Yah wanted to them and gave all the glory to Yah and the angel that was with him. We already know who that is, the Messiah. So we're looking at Acts chapter 28, when they land on the coast, when the boat breaks, the back of the boat breaks, and they were able to get on the shore. Verse 1, it says, and when they escaped, then they knew that the island was called Melita, and the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, because they kindled a fire and received us everyone, because the present rain and because of the cold. He's saying that the barbarous people actually showed them kindness. The phrasing it almost got me too. So it says in verse 3, and when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand. When the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man is a murderer. Though he hath escaped the sea, yet vengeance is not allowing him to live. And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked for a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. In the same quarters were possessions of the chief man of the island, whose name was Publius, who received us and lodged us 3 days courteously. And it came to pass that the father of Publius lay sick of a fever and of a bloody flux, to whom Paul entered in and prayed and laid his hands on him and healed him. And when this was done, others also, which had diseases of the island, came and were healed, who also honored us with many honors. And when we departed, they laded us with such things as were necessary. All right. Let me let you guys pull out what you want to point out from these verses first.
I mean, just looking at, this first, this first event that happens, Paul being, bit by this viper,
Right.
you know, and instantly, you know, everyone's like, "Oh man, this dude, he's a dead. This is a dead man right here." Like, man, this is a dead man right here. Like all that. Yeah, we got off the ship, but he couldn't get away from what he, you know, things catching up to him already, you know,
Right.
and you know, just to see, because Yahusha says, you know, that those that believe in him, you know, will be bitten by serpents and will not be harmed.
Mm.
You know? And I'm just like, he said, "You shall take up serpents, and they shall not kill you," I believe. And just like seeing that here is exactly what he said. You know, it's playing out.
Right.
You know, but what's interesting is you know, Paul was not one of those people that was there when Yahusha said that. You know, but he did say these are the signs that follow them that believe. And so I thought that was you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, it was powerful. You know, because
Absolutely.
that's a testimony to Yahuwah's power now. Now
Right.
they're really seeing it, like, yo, oh man, this, like, to the point where they thought he was an Elohim.
Right.
They're like, yo, yeah, this man's something else, you know.
Absolutely. Testimony. That's the biggest thing. Testimony. Remember when Moses brought them out of Egypt, he was just like, you know, Moses was concerned with the nations recognizing who Yah was. Yah was also concerned with that, wanting to use Israel as testimony to show the nations that he can do it for them, that he can protect them, that he can guide them, that he can provide for them, you know. So right here he's doing the same thing with these barbarians, barbarians probably because they haven't really accepted any type of religion from the Jews or from anything, you know. So barbarians are watching with their superstition, and Yah's like, I'm gonna use this as a testimony to show him that I'm with him, because of course Paul is gonna glorify Yah. He's not gonna at one instant reflect on himself, you know. This happened to him before, earlier in Acts, where they started picking him up, calling them Zeus and Hermes.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, praise Yah for using us for a testimony to glorify him, for him to be glorified, you know.
And you know, it also reminds me of when you know, where it says, "Oh death, where is your sting? Oh death, where is your sting? Oh grave, where is thy victory?" 1 Corinthians 15:55.
Yeah.
And then it says, "The sting of death is sin. The sting of sin is the law." But it says that, yeah, oh death, where is your sting? And that's, you know, a perfect example right there, you know, being able to conquer through Yahusha, you know, having that faith, being able to conquer death, trusting in him.
Absolutely.
I've seen this myself. I was in a near car accident, and boy, I got to meditating on Yah, like instantly went to Abba. I know you're not about to let this happen.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, right when the car needed to, it came to a whole, I mean, like a jerking stop, as if somebody just grabbed the car and was like, "You're not moving anymore," you know? And I was just like, praise Yah, you
Praise
know?
Yah.
Like, yeah.
Praise Yah. Mike, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, you know, I think it's something to look at these, you know, barbarians, you know, I'm not completely sure exactly what defines a barbarian, but I think everybody would agree that they would be non-believers, at least non-believers of Yah, or not knowing Yah. But yet they saw the power and immediately knew that what just happened came from a God, you know. So of course they assumed he was the God, but the point I'm making is that they knew that was the power of a God. They don't know Yah, but they saw the power and acknowledged, you know, that had to been, something divine. And these are, people ignorant of Yah. But then you also have the scripture talking about those who know of him but deny the power of Yah. So I think it's something to think about, like what's different in the mentality, there. These people who know nothing of Yah see his power and acknowledge it as, a divine power compared to those who, claim they know him, but then don't acknowledge the power that he has. So I think that's something to think about. Well, what's different with that mentality? How do we get that way?
No, absolutely. It's funny because in Ezekiel chapter 3, in Ezekiel chapter 3, he talks about like what you're saying, like I guess religious people or people who knew of him. Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 4, it says, "And he said unto me, Son of man, go get thee unto the house of Israel and speak with my words to them. For you are not sent to a people of strange speech and of a hard language, but to the house of Israel, not to many people of a strange speech or of a hard language, whose words you cannot understand." And it says, "Surely had I sent you to them, they would have hearkened unto you. But the house of Israel will not hearken unto you, for they have not hearkened unto me." Talking about the word that they possess. For all the house of Israel are hard-hearted, So this is just another fulfillment of prophecy continuing, how Yah is now, you notice that he's telling them to go to Israel first, or go to those who are familiar first. It makes sense. Then go to those who are, the nations. But you see how Yah already knew if you went to them, they would have listened. And we see the nations just taking it in. They're just taking it in. So they're watching. Matter of fact, Romans chapter 1 talks about how even nature shows that there's the power and the divinity of Elohim, so they're looking at nature and they're seeing something contrary to nature, and they're right away like, this is the power, because it's opposite of the nature. You get bit, you die. That's it. So no, absolutely. It's a crazy differentiation with somebody who never heard of the truth, recognizing the power, and those who have the word with them recognize the power and still deny it because of pride and things like that, So history will repeat itself. Go ahead, JP.
Yeah, just the verse Mecca was talking about, Mark 16, verse 18. But it says starting in 14, chapter 16 of Mark, afterward he appeared unto the 11 as they sat at meat, and upbraided them with their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen. And he said unto them, Go you into the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. I want to bring that portion out, speaking about what Emeka was speaking about.
Praise Yah. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Okay. Yeah, no, I found it was something interesting. Because I was thinking about, what Paul was doing was like, I don't know, kind of like a miracle in a sense. It's like this miraculous thing. Like, it was like, whoa, like these men, it was a witness for them. And 2 Kings chapter 4, starting in verse 38, I'll read a few verses. It says, And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land. And the sons of the prophets were sitting before him, and he said unto his servants, set on the great pot and seethe pottage for the sons of the prophets. And one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds his lap full, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. So they poured out for the men to eat, and it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out and said, O thou man of Elohim, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat thereof. But he said, then bring meal. And he cast it into the pot, and he said, pour out for the people, that they may eat. And there was no harm in the pot. And there came a man from Baal Shalisha, and brought the man of Elohim bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, and full ears of corn, and the husk thereof. And he said, give unto the people, that they may eat. And his servitor said, what should I set this before, 100 men? He said again, give the people, that they may eat. For thus saith Yahuah, they shall eat and shall leave thereof. So he set it before them, and they did eat and left thereof according to the word of Yahuah. And I'm just bringing that out just because it was just this, like, I guess, I'm trying to lean towards the understanding that, like, these things were being done by those men of Yahuah, like those. Right. They were able to show the people this, and it's interesting because it's similar to what Messiah did. He fed a lot of people with a little bit of bread, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
And so that was amazing to me. And the first account with Elisha, with the pottage, he's like, he made it possible. You know, it just made it possible. So it was just something interesting, just kind of relating it to the man of Yahuah being something like what Paul was. He did something like that was miraculous to me in that sense. So
absolutely. It also reminds me of Numbers when with the fiery serpents, how when they looked at the bronze serpent, they were healed. You know, they were not those who believed. They looked, and those who believed were healed. One of the things I want to point out too is that. And this is something very important for us as well. We have to know Yah's will, right, for us. It has to be, you have to sit down and examine what Yah wants you to do. Paul knows he got to go to Rome. So he got bit by a serpent, and he was like, okay. His composure was still like, I gotta finish what I'm doing. I believe that is because of the faith he had, knowing that Yah already told him he has to go to Rome. So stopping off at Melita and getting bit by a viper, and he just shook it off. He didn't even say anything. He just shook it off, and while they were watching him, he knew that Yah's will for him is that he survive all the way to Rome. And this is a lot of times, this gives us confidence as well. I'm speaking from experience as well. Like when you know what Yah wants you to do and things happen that looks ridiculous, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter because you know that Yah wants you to do this particular thing. A lot of times we don't analyze and try to self-reflect. What does Yah want me to do? And know that this is what he wants you to do. So when things happen, you still have that comfort, that consolation from Yah. Don't matter what happened. It doesn't matter. Just like Abraham, when Abraham was promised that his children would come from Isaac, right? When he was told to sacrifice Isaac in the book of Hebrews chapter 11, he had in his mind, he still has to fulfill his promise of blessing my children, making my children like the stars. So if he's going to take my son, then he's going to resurrect him back. You see what I'm saying? It's like when you are making your trust in Yah's promises, it doesn't move you. Things don't move you the way that they move you when you don't have any particular will. When you think that, when you don't know what Yah wants you to do, when you think that Yah could just dispose of you. It's not what he wants to do. He wants you to have a specific mission, a specific purpose, and he wants you to fulfill that purpose. You know, so when anything is happening in your life, you can still have your mind fixed because you know that this purpose didn't happen yet. The only thing that moves you outside of that purpose is sin. Sin moves you away from that purpose, and you will not fulfill his purpose if you are walking in sin. You have to also, there's a lot of self-reflection in scripture that allows us to be confident in the promises of Yah. You know, Second Peter chapter 1 verse 4 says, by his promises, we partake in a divine nature. The divine nature is peace, long suffering, love. We have a sound mind because we are partaking in his divine nature because we believe in his promises. So we need to kind of focus. What does Yah want me to do? It doesn't matter how old I am. Doesn't matter how much time I wasted. What does he want me to do? Because he will put you back on that mission if you repent. If you redirect yourself, he will put you back on that mission. So, you know, we need to focus. Like Paul didn't even second guess, but even by a viper, that it was going to hinder his way to Rome. He just shook it off. That's crazy. All right. So do we want to read? Who wants to read the next 10 verses, verse 11 to 20?
I'll take it.
All right. Oh, JP got a little slow on there. Mecca got
Yeah. I knew JP was coming for it, so you know what I mean.
JP, you got to have that finger over the hand, man.
No. Hey, you know, I'm not on the computer right now. You know what I'm saying? But
Oh, that's what he's... Nate too. Nate, what happened, man?
I want to mention the second account in verse 8. He lays hands on the man.
Yeah.
And it kind of related back to that same Mark 16 verse, verse 18. It's just like it's interesting as I'm sorry, but because I was looking at it right now before we were moving on, I was like, man, you know, we seen that he shook off a serpent, and then now he lays hands. And when you look at Mark 16, it says, and these are the signs that shall follow them. In 17, verse 17 of Mark chapter 16, they shall cast out devils, which will, you know, but it says they shall speak with new tongues. You know what I mean? Like, but also take up serpents and drink anything deadly. They drink anything deadly thing, it shall not hurt them, and they shall lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. So just showing that how Paul here is in this 10 verses was already showing 2 of those out of those things in the list, and should I say, you know. So that was pretty interesting, you know what I mean?
Praise Yah.
Oh, absolutely.
We're in that line though. We are also those who are believers, you know. So we fall along that line. It has to be according to his purpose. And there go to purpose again. Matter of fact, it says, all things work for the good of those. I never remember that, even though that's the verse everybody can't believe. One of you know. Nate knows. Nate, tell us that.
All things work together for the good of them that love the master and are called according to his purpose.
Called according to his purpose. That's when it works together. When you're called according to his purpose and when you're walking in that purpose. That's why it's very important to know what Yah wants you to do. Now, what Yah wants us to do, it never conflicts with other individuals. Remember, if we're the body, then the pieces work together. If Yah's purpose somehow causes some type of conflict, you need to reevaluate your purpose, because it does not cause conflict with the brethren. It causes unity with the brethren, you know? So it has to be, we have to sit down by ourselves and think about what does Yah want me to do? And once you know, you'll know that there's nothing that's going to deviate from that purpose from fulfilling in your life. You know what I mean? Just like Paul. All right, but Emeka got the next 10 verses. Nate and JP was pretty slow. So Emeka, go ahead, brother. Verse 11 to 20.
All right. And after 3 months, we departed in a ship of Alexandria, which had wintered in the isle, whose sign was Castor and Pollux. And landing in Syracuse, we tarried there 3 days, and from thence we fetched a compass and came to Rhegium. And after 1 day, the south wind blew, and we came the next day to Puteoli, where we found brethren, and were desired to tarry with them 7 days. And so we went toward Rome. And from thence, when the brethren heard of us, they came to meet us as far as Appii Forum, and the 3 taverns, whom when Paul saw, he thanked Yah and took courage. And when we came to Rome, the centurion delivered the prisoners to the captain of the guard, but Paul was suffered to dwell by himself with a soldier that kept him. And it came to pass that after 3 days, Paul called the chief of the Yahudim together, and when they were come together, he said unto them, Men and brethren, though I have committed nothing against the people or customs of our fathers, yet was I delivered prisoner from Jerusalem into the hands of the Romaim, who when they had examined me would have let me go, because there was no cause of death in me. But when the Yahudim spoke against it, I was constrained to appeal unto Caesar, not that I had ought to accuse my nation of. For this cause, therefore, I called for you to see you and to speak with you, because that for the hope of Yasharal I am bound with this chain.
Go ahead, brother. What do you see?
Just just the fact that once again we see him just speaking about the whole situation. Now there was no he was worthy of, and the Yahudim just they are forcing the hands of those that are going to put him to death. They're forcing this issue on a man who is innocent, who hasn't done anything wrong to the law, the law, the Yahudim, or any man in general, and that shows me, it goes back to that verse where it says, when you do the things that please Yah, your enemy, even your enemies will be at peace with you, so you see here, like, even the Romans, are at peace, like, this man, anything, had no reason to accuse him, but the Yahudim are consistently like, nah, this is not good. So this is really a working of Hasatan, to put Paul, out because of his, because if you look at everything he's doing, it takes back to, I believe it's Acts chapter, is it 16? No, I think it's Acts chapter, where he warns them that he's going to the other nations, and he's telling them, spreading the word of Yahuwah to them, and the, just earlier in, pretty much what is causing all this, is that he's telling the other nations, and they're believing. Like, you see him putting in work, all the way till now. Everywhere Paul's going, he's converting, he's converting people to Yahuwah. He's reconciling people to Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha, with all the things that Yah is doing to these people. And it's amazing, because you see just a little bit of things that Paul's doing here, and he's converting people. But look at all the in great number, Yahuwah did all those things amongst the Yahudim, in great number. Thousands of people were coming to Yahusha, being healed before their face, and there has mentality of putting him to death, and the same thing with Paul, and like scripture says, the servant is not greater than the master. So all things that the master suffered, the servant is going to go through as well. So, that's, yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. There's some very important statements Paul makes. One, he was with the barbarians for 3 months. Barbarians, according to the Greek, the word barbarians actually means a foreigner that's not Greek. So it's like another different type of nation that they haven't been connected with. So it's interesting that he was there for 3 months. You already know Paul was doing work over there.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's interesting that it says that they went on a ship from Alexandria, which is a Greek town. And then it says that it had a banner of Castor and Pollux. Castor and Pollux, the Greek there, it's talking about Jupiter's sons, or the sons of Zeus. So it's interesting showing all these these things that he's around, that he's surrounded by. One of the things that I see very interesting, well, 2 things. Verse 19, it says that when they had examined me, they would have let me go because there was no cause of death in me. And verse 19 says, but when the Jews spoke against it, I'm sorry. Am I even on the right one? Yeah. He says, I was constrained to appeal to Caesar, not that I have ought to accuse my nation of. So it's real interesting how Paul had a lot to accuse his nation of. He had a lot. One, they were trying to kill him. They were trying to kill him in transition of his trial. They tried to get Festus to get him to go to Jerusalem so they could kill him. They got false witnesses against him. They did a whole bunch of stuff against him, but Paul said, I'm not going to accuse my nation of anything. And I think it's very interesting how the accuser is Satan, right? Hasatan. And even though Paul has something to accuse his nation of, he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. And it's not because it's his nation, it's because he has something better to do. Verse 20, it says, for this reason, I call for you to see you and to speak with you, because that for the hope of Israel, I am bound with chains. I'm not coming to you or appealing to you because I want to accuse Israel. I'm coming to you because I want to speak to you about what I am in chains for, which is the truth, the message. So it's just amazing how his mind went from, well, not went from, because he didn't deviate from this at all. His mind, while his people was accusing him, while people was false witnessing, while people was lying on him, his mind was focused on, I am here to tell you something. I'm not going to waste time talking about all the wrong things other people are doing. I'm going to use all my time to tell you about all the right things Yah is doing. And I think that that's so admirable, because a lot of times we get caught off guard by all the wrong things other people are doing and accusing other people of things that maybe they're even doing these things. Maybe it's a right accusation. But the focus is, I'm here about helping everybody, speaking to you about the truth. Yah told me to come to you. And I think that that's very important. When we don't have a focus, when we don't have a purpose, we tend to look at everybody else and think that our purpose is to accuse everybody else, or our purpose is to bring down everybody else or correct everybody else because we don't have any focus of our own. You know, but in actuality, Yah wants to give you a purpose. And he wants you to focus on that. You know, so it's not that he didn't have anything to correct them on, but what's the point of telling Caesar what he needs to correct the Jews about? So his whole point wasn't, he's like, I'm not coming here to accuse them of anything. I'm coming here to talk to you. You know, so it's very interesting that he's extremely focused on what he needs to do. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just was thinking about this now when you're talking about he could have accused Israel as his brothers, but he didn't. And I was just thinking about the reality of what I think he understood. What he wrote himself, basically, so I know he understood. In Ephesians 6:12, he says, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places." So he knew that. I think he already understood that his brothers, those people that were against him, it was really, they were under that influence of the enemy, that persecution, that spirit of anti-Mashiach. And at the end of the day, it's not about flesh and blood, and it's something that, like in the past couple of years, in my own life, Yah's been reminding me of like when family members don't turn against you and things like that. At the end of the day, it's not them. It's a spirit that, if we're not careful, the scriptures tell us to be sober, be vigilant, for our adversary half the time goes around the roaring lion seeking who he may devour. And so I think he had that understanding, and he didn't take it personally. It was just the reality of the warfare that we live in every day, the spiritual warfare. So, shalom.
Absolutely, Brian. We don't battle against flesh and blood, and we don't war against one another. We correct one another. We lift each other up in order for us to fight together, fight the good fight together, you know. But we think that we can say and do things and be like, oh, no, it's correct, so it's supposed to have the effect that it's supposed to have. Absolutely not. Even the correct thing, when done with the wrong motive, can hurt and damage, you know, the purpose. You know, if you telling somebody they did wrong, but you're doing it with the motive of tearing them down, it's not going to accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish. You're not going to be known as the one who helped anyone see the truth. You're going to be known as the one that tore someone down or broke someone down. And that's what Yah is going to see. It doesn't matter if you said the right words. You can say the correct words all day long, but if you're doing it with the wrong motive, Yah is going to look at your motive. That's what he told the prophet Samuel. He says, man looks at the outward appearance. Yah looks at the heart. I see why you're doing stuff. So when you do stuff, everybody else could praise you, but I see why you did it. And that's what you're being judged for. You're going to be judged for why you're doing stuff. And when you're looking at the situation with other people, Yah is going to look at why you have an issue with the other person, why you want to correct the other person. And if it's not for the benefit or the purpose of the glorifying of Yah and his purpose, it's not right. It's not right. It's better to be quiet than be condemned by our words. But absolutely, Brian. JP, how dare you put down your hand? What do you want to say?
Nah, I know you remember. I was just looking at looking at a map and seeing how far Jerusalem is from Italy, and seeing the vicinity where he was at, in Syracuse. It says he went to Regium, um, Patoli, 3 taverns. And as he inched his way and got closer, which were the 3 taverns in Appii Forum in verse 15, it says, and from thence, when the brethren heard of us, they came to meet us as far as Appii Forum and the 3 taverns. So I just thought that was amazing. It's just interesting to see this, because it seems like most of the time when I read the scriptures, I know for myself, I kind of think of like everything's like in Jerusalem. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always over here. It's like, and the reality is there's no internet at this time. There's no telephones. You know what I mean? There's no like, yo, this man Paul, he just got on the scene and they're hitting people up in Italy. It's not like that. So for there's brothers in Italy at this point. You know what I'm saying? And we heard him go to the council when he was in Jerusalem. I think I was in the beginning of Acts. So like from him traveling from that point, jumping on a ship and going through this whole mission to get to Italy, and then by the time he gets to Italy, there's brothers already that know about him. They already understand, like he's a brother, like he's so it was just amazing to see that. And when you look at the map, you kind of really get the visual, because when you really take into account the measurement of miles from Jerusalem to Italy, I mean, you might be talking about, I don't even know, man, maybe like 4,000 miles or something. Yeah. Maybe more. I don't really know the calculation.
He's traveling for months.
For months, you know what I mean? So I guess word travels fast. Let's put it that way.
It's pretty slow. No, but he was traveling for months. And I remember when he left, I'm not sure if it was Acts 23 or 24, he was with his brothers. And the prophet Agabus came to him and said they're going to take him in Jerusalem. And then later on, he got another prophecy saying he's going to Rome. And Luke was with him. And wherever he went, there would be more brothers added to him, So I think that as people will come and go from him, they would tell other people about what Paul is going through. And then people would the only thing I could see is people would try to meet him along the way. They know where he's going, so they'll try to go there along the way, And of course, they're able to make it there before him because he just got into a shipwreck. He was stuck in the sea for a while. He was fasting 14 days for a while, 3 months on this island with barbarians. So he's like taking, there's a lot of detours going on, but it is amazing to see the places in which Yah took him, especially by sea, because that's not a fast journey, I'm not even by sailboat. It's not even like a motorboat. This is a sail. So this is just showing the beauty of the footwork that Paul was able to do by the power of Yah, and to show how fast he wants things to be today. I mean, look at all the things that he's allowed to be accomplished as far as technology is concerned, as far as delivering information to other people. Like things are gonna in the last days is not gonna be as drawn out as it was during the time of Solomon, during the time of Paul, even during the time of Messiah. When things happen, they're gonna happen like that. When somebody's gonna say something, everybody's gonna know about it. When somebody's gonna preach something, everybody's gonna know about it. When healings are happening, everybody's gonna know about it, and the word is gonna go out really quickly in these last days. That's why we need to be extremely prepared, and especially in his word, so we won't be deceived. We need to be walking uprightly, lifting each other up. Go ahead, Brother Kevin.
Yeah, you touched base on something that I think I'm gonna leave till after we finish this study. But just as you were saying, things happen quickly. And prior to me joining up with this group of brothers, that's all the conversation was about. Look at these signs. Look at what's happening. The stock market, the pandemic, even though they don't call it that yet, but it's a pandemic because it's on several continents. When things happen and I'm speaking, let's say, to my wife about stocks or something like that, and she'll give me a technical reasoning, and I'm like, it's Yah. Why can't you see that? Why can't you see these signs that are happening, and they're happening quicker? You know, they're happening quicker. They're more intense. Weather, this, that, and the other. But just what you were speaking on about 4 different things I want to comment, but speak on it, man. I mean, we all have a purpose, like you said, and I was meant to hear every word that you're saying, Jadiel. I was supposed to hear every last word you said, because each one of those statements, 4 or 5 statements that you made that I want to comment on, are here with me today. And I was meant to hear every last one of those things. So when things are going to happen now in our time, as you just stated, they're going to happen quick. So we have to be ready. That's all I had.
Yeah, praise Yah, brother. Praise Yah. Anybody want to finish the chapter off, verse 21 to 31? Nate, JP, man.
He's stuffing his face.
Again. I bet you it's eggs. It's something with eggs in it. All right, go ahead, Nate.
And they said to him, we neither receive letters from Yahudah concerning you, nor have any of the brothers who came reported or spoken whatever wicked about you. And we think it right to hear from you what you think. For indeed, concerning this sect, we know that it is spoken against everywhere. And having appointed him a day, many came to him where he was staying, to whom he was explaining earnestly, witnessing about the reign of Elohim, and persuading them concerning Yahusha, and both the Torah of Moshe and the Nebiim, from morning until evening. And some indeed were persuaded by what was said, but some believed not. And disagreeing with one another, they began to leave after Shaul had spoken one word. The Ruach HaKodesh rightly spoke through Yeshayahu the Nabi to our father, saying, go to this people and say, hearing you shall hear, but by no means understand, and seeing you shall see, but by no means perceive. For the heart of this people has become thickened, and with the ears they heard heavily, and they have closed their eyes, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and understanding with their heart, and turn back, and I should heal them. Therefore let it be known to you that the deliverance of Elohim has been sent to the Gentiles, and they shall hear. And when he had said these words, the Yahudim went away and had a great dispute among themselves. And Shaul stayed 2 entire years in his own rented house, and was receiving all who came to him, proclaiming the reign of Elohim and teaching about the Adon Yahusha HaMashiach with all boldness unhindered.
So Nate, you want to point some things out?
I just think that it's interesting, even unto this day, when you bring up the master, that there are those who, I mean, that's just the story of those who believe and those who don't. You can reason. You're going to take those who who say they are Jews, or the Hebrews, however you want to say it. There's some that still believe, and there's some that don't. It's been the story, I think, since he's walked the earth, that it just it's a something of faith and of revelation that it's some people you just don't get when we I think people we rely on other things other than faith, and you just don't see it. So you can reason in the scriptures, you can show it time and time again, but it's not until you have that moment where you say yes. But I think also it's good that they were able to reason together. It doesn't say they broke up, they didn't split up, they didn't break off. They just reasoned together, and they kept. I would imagine it's kind of like what the Bereans did. They just search the scriptures and we're reason and say, no, I don't think that is like that. Kind of what we do, on Marco Polo. They just reason together and work it out, and then some are just, going to be left to their own belief. But, I think it's important that we continue to do some things in like manner, that we hear a matter, go to the scriptures, and say, well, this is what the prophet said, this is what the writing said, this is what the Psalm says, and we work it out. And I think, we see here that's how it's been from the beginning, and that's how we should continue until the reign of Elohim comes, that we have to just make sure that we're doing that all through the script. That's what we have to base it on. What did Yahuah say? What did he say? Because if, once we go back there, it's going to be there if we look for it. So,
right. Absolutely. It's not about fighting. It's about just sticking to the word, sticking to it, and sticking with one another. That's what Paul was about. Word and one another. Yah and his neighbor. That's all he wanted. We should want the same things. Go ahead, JP.
Two comments. One was for 22, verse 22. Here they call it a sect. As concerning this sect, we know that everywhere it is spoken against. I think that's an amazing. I think the last one what was it called? They called it something else previously in the book of Acts, something different than. Oh, it's called the Way. How can I forget the Way? You know what I mean? So, but that's pretty interesting. Like just to show the set apartness, should I say, of the people of Messiah that are the disciples and the people of Yahuah at this time. They became a set apart people instead of being kind of blended in with Judaism. You know what I mean? And just saying, oh, they're all the same. But now it seems like there's like this separation of them, of those people that, like if you were a Roman or something, you say, oh, those people over there, they're the people of the way, or the sect of the way, that's been spoken of. And it says here, everywhere is spoken against. They're not speaking against Judaism. They're speaking of particularly of the way,
Right.
So I just thought that portion was interesting. And just to add on to that, it's just pretty bold to me. And I know it's how amazing it is. It says in verse 28, be it known therefore unto you that the salvation of Elohim is set unto the Gentiles, and that they will hear it. And that word Gentiles, it means ethnos, heathen. They use it in the English. They've used it as Gentiles, nation, heathen, and people. And if you go by a Strong's definition of that word, it's a race, i.e. a tribe, especially a foreign, non-Jewish one, usually by implication pagan. So it just goes to show that the love of Yahuwah, where it's at today, is for every nation, tongue. It's for everybody that wants to hear and be grafted in. And so I just thought that was just something amazing that is proclaimed so clearly in Scripture, and that
Right.
we don't need division today. So
Oh,
set
absolutely.
yourself apart.
And it's just that, to me, that's powerful, because he set out for Israel to be a light to the nations, to bring them in. And it shows that even though Israel didn't want to do it, Yah's going to fulfill his purpose anyway with the few that wants to do it. It's just interesting. It's amazing how you could not want to do it. You could disobey. You could all fall. Yah is still going to go and bring that light to the nations and still bring them into Israel and still call it Israel. You see what I'm saying? Like, but when you hinder or you restrict it from having to be done however you think it needs to be done, you think it can never happen. But you see, Yah is going to complete his purpose regardless if we're a part of it or if we disobey and leave it. He's still going to fulfill his purpose. And we got to be grateful that he prefers for us to be a part of his will rather than, have some type of self-proclaimed, will, like, about us. Like, oh yeah, us. It's like Yah's will is, like when it says us, Yah is the one. He's the us. Who's with us, him and his son, not who's with us, man, who he's trying to save. So we gotta redirect that us, like who's with us, Yah and his son. And just like Isaiah in Isaiah chapter 6, we got to say, here I am, send me to bring them to us. We need to recognize the truth, recognize, maybe historical truths, recognize it, but don't lose sight of the bigger picture. It's interesting that Paul quotes the same verse that Messiah quotes from Isaiah, talking about when they asked him, why does he speak in parables? They asked Messiah, why do you speak in parables? And he literally quoted verse 27, Acts chapter 28, verse 27. Messiah quoted this from Isaiah and said, I speak in parables because they shall hear and not perceive. And then he says that the kingdom was given to the apostles to deliver. It was given to them so they can deliver it to everyone else. So it's interesting because many people be like, oh, the Jews first. But when he came, it wasn't all the Jews first. It was his disciples. It was those who said, I want to be your student. Those are the ones that got the kingdom, not all the Jews. So it's very interesting who he calls the Jews, or who he says in John chapter 4, where he says salvation is of the Jews. We know what we worship. He wasn't talking about the whole Yahudim, the whole Jews. He was only talking about those who actually believe. You see what I'm saying? So when we talk about Jew first, it's talking about those who know and believe. They are the ones that I come to first, then everyone else. Because remember, even though you're in Israel, doesn't mean you're a part of Israel. You know what I mean? So go ahead, JP.
Nate, you had something? Did you want to say something, Nate? I don't know. I thought Nate was going to say something, man. He unmuted and everything.
No, I mean, he just going back to what the scripture we quoted earlier, all things work together. When he was going through, it's whether you want to do it or not,
Right.
It's Yah's going to bring it to pass. So you might as well get on board and not go go through all the stuff you're going to go through by kicking against the pricks. Just
Right.
because it's easier, but that's stuff we have to learn. It's easier to just go with Yah instead of fighting against it, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So either you'll change, or you're going to go through so much, and then somebody else is going to do it anyway. So, and you went through all that heck just for fighting against them. But that's
Hallelujah.
Man, I know somebody just went through something like that. Y'all put them in a good situation. They needed to get out of a bad environment they was in, and y'all made a way. And then they didn't even stay in that good situation. Y'all put them in not even 2 weeks. They was back into the bad situation because they didn't want to just deal with the small uncomfortabilities, that was present. But instead they walked right back into a lifestyle of sin. And I was just like, man, you can't. When Yahuwah does something, and now as a consequence, Yahuwah's taking the other people away from them that they had there to help guide them in the truth and in the way. And because they noticed and they said, you know what, we got to pull back from you because you're not listening to Yahuwah. You're doing what you want to do and not his will. So we got to pull back, since you want to walk according to the flesh, and you want to continuously sin. They pulled back, it moved away. And now that person's got to go through everything they're going through without those people to give, support or certain things. And it's just like they said everything that they said. They said everything the Ruach was leading them to say. They prayed. Yahuwah moved, got you in a better situation, and then you went back to a vomit. You went back to your vomit, just like it says a dog goes back to his vomit. You went back to your vomit, and now it's just like you unclean. Like we can't sit here and act like we condone what you're doing. So it's a very, you got to take those steps. You got to eliminate that sin. You like he said, you can't kick against the pricks when you can't fight Yahuwah's will. You can't fight Yahuwah's will. It's devastating. It's devastating. Yahuwah will bring you as low as he can bring you down, and you don't want to get there. It's
pride.
Right.
Pride.
Absolutely.
Most of it. I heard when JP said that Sabbath morning. A lot of it goes back to that, man. It's when you look at it, it's pride.
It's the root of every downfall. It's the root of every fall. Sin is a falling away. So it's like before a fall, pride comes before a fall. That's every sin. Pride is the root of every single sin.
I agree.
So it's
absolutely.
Yeah. You look at the 10 Commandments, if you transgress them, it's because of something prideful that you're doing.
each one.
It is. It's everything. It is. That pride is something that we all have, and we all really have to work on to get rid of all the time, because
self is the biggest battle.
Yeah.
The biggest battle, when you look at, we got to look at that. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. When you're looking at the strongholds and the weapons of our warfare and all these things, it's talking about your own mind. It's not talking about anyone else's mind. The strongholds, it's talking about your own strongholds. You know what I mean? So it's like we need to recognize that the biggest battle that's keeping us from the kingdom is only you. There's no one. You can never look at Yah and say, this person kept me out of the kingdom. Because this person could kill me, but I'm going to be in the kingdom because I'm trying to walk according to his ways. But if I am not in the kingdom, it's going to be because of me and not because of anything, any circumstance or any person around me. So
when James said that, let no man say when he is tempted, it's of Elohim.
Right.
It's from you.
Your own thing, I wanted to point out this amazing point. One, Paul is a prisoner. And this guy is renting a house in verse 30. This guy is there for 2 years in his own house, and he's a prisoner. You know, he's a prisoner of Rome in a rented house, you know, preaching the gospel to everybody coming through to his house all day long. Verse 23, it says, when they had appointed him a day when he came, many to him unto his lodging, to where he lived, to whom he expounded and testified of the kingdom of Elohim. He persuaded them concerning Yahusha, both out of the law of Moses and out of the prophets, from morning to evening. To me, that's a dream to me. Just that's all I do. Is that's a dream to me. I would love it.
Right.
But
I heard
what
that.
Paul is doing in Rome right now. Like, he has a rented house talking about Yah from the Moses to the prophets all day long, proving Yahushua, proving the truth. It's like that's like a vacation to me right now. Man, yeah. These hands, you wanna record these hands, or go ahead, JP, and then Kevin.
Just wanted to say, 23 that you just read, I wanted to mention that as well, because it's almost like challenging for myself. You know what I mean? Just challenging for a lot, I think, of people, because most of the time, because of course, the New Testament has so much in it. It's all one book, right? The Old Testament, New Testament, it's all one book. We're not going to try to divide it and say, oh, let's just preach one or the other. But at this point, we're seeing that Paul he's testifying and he's expounding of the kingdom of Elohim, persuading them concerning Yahusha out of the law of Moses and the prophets. And I feel like that was like, just right now, just like that's like a challenge for myself to say, okay, that's where you need to start to get, this strength, because, we get into these conversations with people in the world, in the streets or whatever, family, and it's constantly just like, oh, well, you're battling with them in the New Testament. And it's just like this battle, because they're in the New Testament in their church. You in the New Testament, it's pretty, it's, to me, it's self-evident. It's just like, oh, it's right here. And it's so beautiful. But then when you hit them up with this Old Testament, they're just like, oh, I've never seen it like that.
Right.
Okay. So I thought it was challenging for myself right now, like a challenge that I just felt for me, that I was like, oh, keep sharpening up, should I say. Keep sharpening up, because I'm sharpening up, but keep sharpening up. And I think for everybody, it's the same thing. So
yeah, Romans is the big one. Romans and Galatians, it's going to be pretty big. That's where all the misconceptions of Paul's writings come from. Romans and Galatians.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm about to work on a little lesson on that one this week. I'm hitting on that topic, circumcision, boy. That's the issue. That's the issue.
Wait till we get
That's the issue.
That's only chapter 2, so we're close. But praise Yah. We're about to harmonize what Yah wanted us to harmonize. What for hundreds of years hasn't been harmonized, but Yah seems to be doing it now. And praise Yah that's also a sign of the end, because the spirit of Elijah is supposed to restore all things. And it's been for years a misconception of Paul's writings in conjunction with the Torah. So for it to be coming to light in the magnitude that is happening, in the mass, is reaching the masses in the way that it's doing now, it's never been like this before, as far as restoration. Because when you look back in history, when Yah gave the Torah, it was spreading because there was a people walking according to the Torah. But then when that got lost, there was a lot of years in which there's people teaching that it was gone. So to see the masses teach that there's a harmony between Paul and the Torah, this is different. This is a restoration of the truth. So let's get ready for the book of Romans. Brother Kevin, go ahead, brother.
I got a cosign, coattail, everybody, JP, Nate, Mecca, and of course yourself. You just took everything, and I was thinking, as I was thinking, I was like, well, yeah, but bam, here comes somebody else. That's what I love about this group. Last thing I'm gonna say is, are we gonna touch base with 29?
Oh
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. I wanna when I close the recording.
There you go. Thank you.
All right. But praise Yah. This concludes our Acts study completely, actually. Like, we are done with the book of Acts. We will be going into the book of Romans to see what Paul had to say. Because remember, Paul is in Rome now. So let's see what type of preaching Paul was having in Rome with the letter to the Romans. I think this would be a good segue into the book of Romans, recognizing that this is what he's been teaching while he was there. And we see clearly in verse 23 that he's been teaching out of the laws of Moses and the prophets while he was in Rome. So we know that the book of Romans should have a lot to do with information out of the law of Moses and the prophets. So praise Yah. Shalom. We'll see you in our Roman study.
Shalom, Akuti, and Rohim. Thank you so much for viewing this video. We hope it was helpful to your walk in the truth. Remember to always search the scriptures on your own, to study Abba's word and show yourself approved, according to 2 Timothy 2:15. We invite you to study with us. To join us in a live study, just go to our website at assemblyofyahuah.com and click the Join Us tab. We have something available Wednesday through Saturday of every week. If you've been Baruch or blessed by this video today or any other study, we encourage you to go to the Giving tab on our website. Our elders all have their own ways of income, so none of the giving or proceeds go to them. Instead, it goes to biblical assembly needs. We also encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any new videos. We sincerely pray that Abba continues to direct your path as you acknowledge Him in all your ways. Much avaha, and again, shalom.